Miami recruiting, the Canes flexed their muscle on Sunday night, and you had to believe number one overall recruit Jackson Cantwell, the offensive tackle from Missouri, had to have loved what he saw. So did the other recruits, and there was a bunch on the sideline Sunday night. Miami wins it 27-24 in the opener against Notre Dame. Steve, let's start with Jackson Cantwell. What was the reaction from his camp?
Well, I talked to his dad this morning, Christian Cantwell, and I know one of his hobbies is cooking up some meat and eating well. So I wonder what kind of spread the Cantwells had over there in Nixon, Missouri yesterday for this ball game. Every Miami commit in 2026 and 2027 was slated to be inside Hard Rock, except for our number one player in the country, Jackson Cantwell, because Miami's not around the corner. But talking to his dad, they watched every second of the game, and they expected this performance from Miami. A lot of people like to say, oh, NIL this, NIL that. That's why Jackson Cantwell picked Miami. And certainly NIL is very relevant in the recruitment of the number one player in the country. And I do think the Hurricanes came the biggest in the pursuit of Jackson Cantwell in that arena. But you're not even in the conversation if you don't have a product that these young men can't believe in. And they believe in Miami, the direction of the program, the coaching. He's always thought Alex Mirabal is the best offensive line coach in the country. The style of play at Miami, Mario Cristobal's track record, the way he built Oregon back into a powerhouse, what he's done historically in his career, coaching at Alabama, the combination of him and Mirabal, an offensive line and the physical style in the game won at the point of attack. That fits Jackson Cantwell to a T. That's what they were expecting to see with Miami and Notre Dame. Miami dominated up front on both sides of the ball. They got the tough physical yards in the running game that also helped set up the game-winning field goal. They got after CJ Carr, particularly on the most important downs of the game, the last two downs of the game. They expected this. You know, his dad said, hopefully this will help Miami close out a few more recruitments in the 2026 cycle because they have a big spatula out right now. They want to flip some of the nation's best and add them to a class that currently ranks number 12 nationally. And if Miami plays the style of football they played last night against Notre Dame, because I think they're going to play better as the season goes on. And Notre Dame is a very quality opponent in week one. Nothing dumber than the mentions of week one. Oh, Texas is overrated. Oh, Notre Dame's mid. Alabama's one of the worst teams in the SEC. Well, we'll see. Maybe these week one losses took their soul. They have to bounce back. Right. But Miami doesn't have to bounce back. They got a huge win. They're riding high now going into next week. It's always fun to watch film after a win and clean up those mistakes as opposed to a loss. But Jackson Cantwell couldn't be more happy with his decision to be a Hurricane. And Miami got it done on all fronts with the potential they showed him. Now they're showing that they can get over the hump and win these type of games. And we'll see what happens moving forward.
Yeah, just the physical presence of Miami in the trenches on Sunday night had to fire up Cantwell. The fact that Miami's offensive line was moving Notre Dame's defensive front nearly every significant play. I mean, hey, if you're an offensive lineman, that's what you want to see. So, Steve, we know Hard Rock was packed on Sunday night. What other significant names watched that Miami win?
Well, let's start with the number 2 running back in the country, Derek Cooper. He's currently committed to Texas, but he's obviously still communicating with other programs. Miami is a school that I never had in that top 2 or 3 coming down the stretch of his recruitment. Early on, I did, but certainly it was Georgia, Ohio State, and Texas that had more momentum in the summer. Early on, you liked Miami, you liked Florida State for Derek Cooper. Again, proving they can win this big game. Games like that, we know Miami takes care of their players. They want to be a team that can run the football. They had one of the best offenses in college football last year under Coach Shannon Dawson, but they want to be diverse. They want to be a program that can beat you on all fronts, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends, getting them all involved, making plays. That's the style of play they want to have. And when you look at Miami's running back room, all 3 of those guys had a chance to eat in that game on Sunday night. And he's going to keep an eye on Miami moving forward. You had James J.J. Johnson, the number 1 defensive lineman in the country. We'll see if that's a guy Miami chooses to go all in on. Because when you look at Miami's performance last night, the guys that they do choose to go all in on are the right guys. We see teams across the country pushing NIL money on, and sometimes it's on the wrong guy. Might be ranked high, but he's not a difference maker for various reasons. The guys that Miami has prioritized made a bunch of plays last night. And Francis Mauigoa dominated at the line of scrimmage. We saw Justin Scott, who they flipped from Ohio State, force a fumble. We saw Marquise Lightfoot flying around, who they beat the Buckeyes on. Certainly those running backs, Fletcher, Lyle, guys they got out of the transfer portal, Malachi Toney, and then certainly Carson Beck, is Carson Beck the highest paid player in college football this year? To get him out of the transfer portal, the toughness that he's shown at Georgia. How could people not like Carson Beck? And people are like, oh, it's easy to say this after that game. But we've been saying it all the time. This is a guy that can play through mistakes, can play through hits, has won big games, has bounced back. He is always competing. That is his number one trait. That's what Mario Cristobal loves. Notre Dame had got people in his face last night. He stayed poised. I think he completed like 12 passes in a row at one point from the second quarter into the fourth. So he really managed that game well last night. He was a major difference for Miami. The guys the Hurricanes are investing in the portal and in the high school ranks, most of those guys are hitting big, making a difference on the program. And that's why you saw Miami come out and beat the Irish in week one. Just smart recruiting, smart NIL recruiting, and then certainly putting it all together, calling the game right, strength program, and all those things that once you get a guy on the roster, you have to do to get the best out of them for your program to win.
Yeah, this team roster and all is really looking like what Mario Cristobal probably envisioned when he arrived in Coral Gables, finally seeing that on both the offensive and defensive lines. What did you make of Anthony Tank Jones showing up? We talked a lot about Miami flip targets attending this game last week, but one of the names we never mentioned was right. Anthony Tank Jones, the edge out of Alabama, committed to Oregon, shows up at week one at Miami. What do you make of it?
Josh, I'm going to answer that, then add a couple more quick flip targets that were there. But Tank Jones, I talked to a source this morning. They said that really developed over the last 3 or 4 days. And for all the flip targets that were on Miami's campus, they're not just giving away tickets. Come watch Miami play, and we'll see if we can make a move. These guys had to have good dialogue with the Miami staff about why the Hurricanes are still in the mix. Why are you still considering us? Why, this is obviously you want to come to a big game, but are you really interested in Miami? And I think they vetted that with Tank Jones and feel like they have a shot, a long play at Tank Jones, currently committed to Oregon. Picked Oregon over Alabama and A&M. Now, Miami is one of the schools in the second tier. He's been there before. Coach Jason Taylor being a legend. Some of the guys on that Miami coaching staff makes it exciting. But Tank Jones wanted to come to this game, said the right things about his interest in Miami, and then obviously came down and saw the Hurricanes play well, saw players that play his position play well. So we'll see if they can make a move on Oregon moving forward. Oregon is not going to mess that recruitment up. So Miami, we'll see what they can do with Tank Jones moving forward. And they're not the only ones still swinging. You got Texas A&M. Certainly you still got Alabama, maybe even Auburn. Justice Fitzpatrick, Rivals number 3 cornerback, was another major target on campus for Miami this weekend. He's committed to Georgia. Look, Miami, they just want to play games this year. I talked to a source around Miami's program this morning. All these kids want to see Miami get over the hump, the source said. And then if Miami wins the ACC, gets to the playoff and makes a run, Miami's going to end up with a lot of who they want. I believe it, man, because, again, Mario Cristobal is a relentless recruiter. He's a relentless coach, man. Like, I don't know how much time he spends at home, particularly this time of year, because he pours into his players, pours into the recruits, gets these guys playing hard. And if you kind of look historically over his career, Miami always plays great in the big games. They're always ready to go for ball games like this. They're looking for that consistency over the next 12 weeks to make sure they don't drop one like they – I mean, Syracuse was a good team last year, but they should have won that game. They should have been in the ACC title game, right? Should have made the – and so last season they won 10. They've improved all 3 years, but it didn't end the way they wanted. So they are motivated this year. That offseason, the strength and conditioning program, some staff changes – put everything in place to win that game against Notre Dame. And now they got to keep it going. It's a long season. Nothing's given to you. But one more 5-star, Calvin Russell. He was on campus. Josh, committed to Syracuse. I think he's still locked in with the Orange. We'll see if that's a guy that Miami chooses to go all in on. Syracuse certainly did. His best friend's Malachi Toney. What an introduction to college football for him. 6 catches, 82 yards, a touchdown against a very talented Notre Dame secondary full of NFL players. He was wearing a Malachi Toney shirt, showing love to his boy. He told Stephen Wagner from our Miami rival site that he plans to get back to more games this year. So we'll see what that is. I did make a prediction in favor of Miami for the number 3 receiver in the country in 2027, Nick Lanier out of Miami Northwestern. There'll be others that they have a great shot to land, and we could keep talking Miami, but that's one prominent junior that was on campus that I really like where Miami stands for. And then the number 1 player in the country in 2028, Bryson Wright, was there with his dad. Ohio State, Miami, Florida are early contenders there. Ohio State's probably the school you just look at initially and handicap them in the best odds position. But if Miami can win games like that, again, his dad's like, we just want to see if Miami can get over the hump. Everyone in the state of Florida is intrigued by Miami. If you live there, they were there for that win, that atmosphere. Kevin Beard is a very respected receivers coach. The offense, Miami led the nation in passing yards last year. So it's an exciting product right now. And those are 2 guys that Miami's in the thick of it for.
Yeah, let's keep talking Miami in the comment section of this one. Cane fans, how you feeling about that performance on Sunday night? And do you feel like it's going to translate to the recruiting trail? I mean, if the wins keep racking up, it's got to put your top flip targets in the comment section below.